Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe. So let's get to it. I'm going to address the elephant in the room right away.
Okay.
You are a fucking handsome bastard, okay? And I want to know what it's like to skate around in the warm-up with no bucket on, and every woman in the lower bowl wants to dive over the glass and jump you. What's that like?
Oh, buddy, I have no idea. I was so focused on hockey when I was there. I was just no time for any extracurricular stuff. Wow, what a life!
Yeah, what a life.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension.
Let's get going. From Elk River, Alberta.
Elk Point. Elk Point.
Elk Point.
I'm actually from Fishing Lake, so I'm from a small little Métis settlement in northern Alberta, but our closest hospital, closest town, was a town called Elk Point, which is about 30 minutes where I'm from.
Wow.
And every time someone says I'm from Elk Point, someone from Elk Point's happy, but my family in Fishing Lake's like, you're not from Elk Point. So I better just, clear the air there.
Stick with that, clear it. Yeah. So you grew up in a very rural area, I would say. And you said the Métis culture you grew up in. Now, that's a combination of native and French, is it? Both?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the Alberta is the only place in Canada that has these Métis settlements. They have 7 of them. So it's not a reservation, but it's a native settlement, a native community. And it's originally, the French kind of came over and the natives, and that's kind of how I grew up on this. Not a reserve. It's not, but it's across the lake from one. I mean, I grew up in the sticks,
Got you. So how does hockey get going for you? Like up there, I mean, God, you're in the middle of nowhere. Did it start on the lake? Did it start organized hockey? How'd you get going in the game?
So I have a sister who's 2 years older than me. And, we had like we call it town site, which was kind of the middle of our community. And we had a school. At the time when I started getting to like 4 or 5 years old, my parents thought that it would be a better opportunity for us to go to, a town and be in a better school. And for me, start some organized, sports, particularly hockey. So I kind of grew up in Lac La Biche my first couple of years. And, my sister went to school and I started skating and that was it. That was kind of the start of it. I bounced, my parents got divorced when I was young, so I bounced around a lot and I was a rambunctious kid. And so I lived with my dad, quite a bit of my childhood. And, we just always bounced around, these small towns in Alberta until I got to be about, 14 or 15 and then moved out to British Columbia, actually. And I played junior A tier 2 with a young kid who was supposed to be the next hot up-and-comer by the name of Terry Ryan.
You play with Terry.
So he was 14 and,
was
TSN
that with the Traders? Or?
That was with the Quesnel Millionaires, we were called.
Okay.
And let me tell you, I walked into that dressing room the first day. I was 15. Terry was 14. I seen men with beards and, hair down below, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I have to go play. And not only the guys I was playing with, the guys I started playing against. So I didn't think I was going to make it my first year of kind of getting into older, growing up in organized hockey. I mean, whatever, right? You just kind of move along age group to age group. I was never that good. I was never playing like the top tier. But once I got to be like 15, 16 years old, it was like, wow, this is what it is. It's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be hard, but that's it. My dad was a truck driver, And Nux, you'll appreciate this. My dad, he's from Ontario, so when he was 16 years old, he was parking cars in Toronto. He was a valet guy. And the Leafs used to come in after the games with Cadillacs and hot chicks and fur coats. Pat Quinn used to come in and give him $5 to park his Cadillac. And my dad said, hey, if I have a son, he's going to play hockey. And so that was kind of, me growing up. My dad had always pushed me towards it. And it always was fun. It was always something to do. And, as I moved along, it obviously got more serious, as you guys know. But that's kind of what started it. My dad said, I'm going to be the next Pat Quinn. So of all the places I played, Montreal, obviously, meeting Larry Robinson and Jacques Lemaire being my coach and all these things. When I played in Edmonton and my dad met Pat Quinn, it was first, besides Gretzky, I would say meeting Pat Quinn was like his aha moment. Like I made it, Pat Quinn's his coach. So that was kind of cool.
How big were you? How big were you when you were like 15, 16?
I was a bigger kid. I was on the bigger side. I was always, I don't know, Nux knows you either will do the dirty work or you won't. And I liked sticking up for my teammates. Like I knew I wasn't the top scorer. I knew, when I was a kid growing up, I shot a bunch of tennis balls against, the garage door and taking slap shots and, working on my cross checking was something that was right up my alley. It didn't take a whole lot. I wasn't trying to make saucer passes when I was a kid. I knew what, I knew what I liked and I knew what I was good at. And that's just kind of how it went, it's just kind of how it started.
So you cut your teeth there, the Millionaires, you get going, then you Tri-City, Prince George Cougars, and good numbers. That last year, 32 games, you had great numbers, actually, almost a point a game. Then Kelowna Rockets, same thing. And you had some PIMs. Now, I looked at your draft year, and I was shocked. And I just it's funny, I went over it with Tim. And I just could not believe you were left to number 71 in the draft, because I say that because the names Ruben Nuder,
he can't even pronounce it, by the way.
Chad Allen. Who the fuck is Chad Allen? Like, it's funny, like people that, you get drafted, you think guys are getting drafted, they have the fucking ability to be able to make it in the NHL, and so many fall by the wayside. People don't get it. Getting drafted at 71, were you waiting to be drafted? Did you think you're going to be drafted? Or, our kids, they all go to the draft today. You didn't do that back then, right? You didn't go to the draft?
I did. The draft was in Hartford. So I had an interesting way to come up. So, the Tri-City Americans, I never played in Hockey Canada. As I said, I was never like, that was just never who I was, so it's never kind of on that radar. I had a guy who coached me in Pee-wees who ended up being, a scout for Tri-City Americans. And so when Terry Ryan went to Quesnel, I had actually been suspended. I was playing a league up. I was playing a age group up. I was playing in midgets, and I ended up getting suspended. And so I had nowhere to play. And this guy, Scott Bonner, said, well, why don't you go up to Tri-Cities to Quesnel, because we have this kid. He's like, 1 year younger than you, and it could be a good place. That's where I first got eyes on me. So then I went to Tri-City Americans camp at 16. My first day or two in camp, you're kind of wearing the half visors back then. And I took a slap shot in the face, broke my nose, broke my orbital bone, and messed me up pretty good. So when I was 16, I didn't play. I was in Tri-Cities till almost Christmas time, but I hadn't played any games. Bob McCammon, I don't remember if you know him, but
I know
he was
him.
Our coach. Yeah, so you know Bob. And he was our coach, and he had some NHL kind of experience.
You better fight.
Exactly. You were, but I wasn't able to do that with kind of the injuries. Now I got to play with the vise. Anyways, to make a long story short, I asked to go home around Christmas time. I said, I'm not playing here. I can't do and so I caught a little stress for that, but I went back. I played for the Fort Saskatchewan Traders, which is, right outside my hometown. I was living in Edmonton at the time, where my mom was. And, so when I was 17, was my first real year of major junior. So that's kind of, I was 17. It was my draft year. And, I started out good, and there was a couple other kids who were going to be drafted. You guys probably remember the name Jason Weimer. I think he was maybe he was supposed to be maybe first overall pick. And around January, I tuned him up pretty good in the fight. And that really got some eyes on me. And then I fought one of my best buddies, Brant Myers, who got traded over to the Spokane Chiefs. And I remember all the older guys on our team were like, hey, you got to let this guy just let him play. And I'm like, you guys are a bunch of chickens. So I go out and fight him, and he breaks my leg like the first 10 seconds. Thank God, or he would have killed me. And so my draft year, I broke my leg, and I only played about half a season that year.
Okay.
So I started falling in the draft, and my agent at the time was Mike Barnett, who I'm sure you know. He's had a lot of NHL guys, and he said, "Well, come on, we'll go to the draft." And so I did that, and ended up getting drafted. I had a couple good draft interviews, and I really hit it off with Lou Lamoriello. Well, I don't know if I hit it off. I thought he hated me. Jacques Lemaire was the coach. They just lost in the conference final to the Rangers when Messier guaranteed they were going to win. Yep. And so, I thought he didn't like me, but something felt good about meeting them. And Jacques Lemaire was the coach, and Larry Robinson was the assistant, and so they ended up drafting me. And my goodness, I thought it was so hard. When I got to camp and to the NHL, I thought, like, these guys hate me. They don't like me. They're hard on me, yada, yada. And what I thought was a bit of a curse at the time ended up being the greatest blessing a player could have. You have those guys as your coaches, and Lou Lamoriello as the GM. And so, they seen something in me. They played a style with Kenny Danico and Lyle Odeline and Scotty Stevens. I say Scotty Stevens, but obviously that wasn't, I wasn't thinking Scotty Stevens then, but it just kind of fit. And it was a lot of tough love, which I needed. I was a poor me type kid. And I didn't know, and I don't think they knew if I had it in me to be a professional. I was a little bit lazy. Does
that explain the first training camp when you came overweight? Was that just immaturity? Was that just
exactly?
And don't take this wrong, ignorance. Because I remember when I came my first pro game in Maine, like I watched the Bruins growing up, all that. I did not have a clue what it took to be an NHL player, or even what goes on behind the scenes. I didn't have a clue. I was ignorant.
Totally.
What did you weigh? What did you weigh?
So my first year that I came in when I was drafted, I came in, I didn't know anything about working out. That's 94. I didn't have the first clue about what it took to be a professional, but they kept me around. Knuckles will know. 94, they had the lockout in October. And so I stayed with the team right until October. Then they had the lockout. Then they sent me back to juniors. And I signed a contract right out of that training camp, big signing bonus. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And they gave me a contract and a signing bonus. And so I went back to juniors that year. And I had exactly. I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know about nothing. As a matter of fact, I had to borrow money from my agent to pay my taxes from that signing bonus. I'm like, what do you mean taxes?
You mean they didn't teach you that at Archbishop O'Leary Catholic High School?
Exactly. And so it was my second year that I came into training camp when I was overweight, and I just was very unprofessional. And man, that really taught me a hard lesson. As you know, Nux, you played with Jacques and Larry and these guys. And, I sat in their office, and what what I really felt was they were coming down hard on me, and they were, but it was coming from a place of you can do better. Like, we believe in you, but if you do this again, this isn't, it's not going to happen again. Basically, exactly. And so for the rest of my career, when I was in New Jersey for the next 4 or 5 years, every summer I was in New Jersey. And now it's kind of accepted that guys will go to their city and they'll train all summer long. Well, back in 94, 95, 96, guys that wasn't really a thing. New Jersey was doing it. And, man, we hired that Pavel Bury's dad, and he just ran us into the ground. It was like Navy SEAL training, I thought.
Russian
to see
style,
like jumping lunges from one end of the football field to, you know what I mean, right? And it was a real, am I going to do this? Is it going to make me or break me moment? And at least it gave me an awareness that it's going to take more than just showing up and, getting in a fight or walking around like I deserve to be here. It's going to take more than that. And, if I was probably in any other organization, I might not have made it. Jersey just stuck with me for some reason. And I got traded because I wasn't really ready to be a professional. I was in and out of the lineup. I was having more fun off the ice, which is ironic. They traded me to Montreal, but I was having
China Club
on Monday nights, right downstairs, walking us right in life, and so I was living the life, man. Here's this kid from Fishing Lake, and I'm playing for the New Jersey Devils. I'm getting in everywhere, and we were a good team. And anyways, when I got traded, I'm glad they traded me to Montreal, but it was a team I hated, and that's we've talked about this before, right? I hated you because all the team when I grew up in Alberta, you were either a Montreal fan or you were an Oiler fan, and that's it. So you weren't both. You didn't kind of like the Canadians and kind of like the Oilers. Yeah. You were one of the others, and I hated the Habs. But when I got traded there, what
was the last straw though there for you? Did you just feel? Did they think you didn't progress to where they wanted you, or what was the last straw with Lou? Because Lou is a hot ass. There's no question about it. But I think he's also a fair guy.
You're 100% right. Lou, I wasn't getting along with Robbie Ftorek, and instead of, because Jacques had left, Jacques retired, Larry hadn't become the coach yet. And what had happened is I hated Robbie because I had him in the minors and we just didn't get along. I felt like he had his guys. And instead of putting my nose to the grindstone and really, I'll show you, I went the other way with whatever.
Yeah, fuck off.
And so exactly. And so they traded me, and I'll tell you this is Lou Lamoriello for you. So I get traded to the Canadians, and the next year, and the Devils win the Cup that year. Traded me from Malakoff. And
by the way, how did that? Was that fucking hit? Was that a gut punch?
Oh, that sucked. That sucked because all summer, I was still living in Jersey because I got traded in March, so I played a few games with the Habs, and then I still had my house in New Jersey. So they go and win the Cup in Dallas. My best friend Jason Arnott scores the overtime goal, and they come to, it's 5 a.m, and they come over. We all live in the same community, and they got the Cup, and I can't touch the thing. Right? I just got traded, so I'm not even touching the Cup. And it was, I went to Letterman's show with them, and here they're, getting all the thing, dumping champagne in people's mouths. And I'm sitting in the corner going like, are you kidding me? Right? So that stung for sure. And then I went back to Montreal the next season, and I'm like, okay, I got an opportunity here and whatever. And at Christmas time, our owner was John McMullen.
I remember John.
You remember Dr. Mack?
Yeah, I coached there 1 year with Jacques, right? After Larry left. I was assistant coach with Jacques. Yeah. I only lasted a year, though. Yeah, you didn't?
No way.
I only lasted 1 year.
I didn't know that, but must have had a tough team.
Well, I think we were too tough because, and I said this before, and believe me, I don't Lou hired me. Jacques wanted me there with him. I was taking Larry's place, which was certainly big shoes to fill. And listen, changing fucking lines is not rocket science, okay? But I had a few confrontations with a few players on that team that didn't like me, and Scott and Dano. McLean didn't like me. Anyway, they made it difficult on me, but I don't blame them. But the players felt as though, and I said this before, Tim's heard this on how many times, that the players felt like they had two head coaches. I can't be an assistant coach. I'm not a fucking bum patter. You know, I don't change fucking diapers, and I don't give binkies and fucking warm up your bottle. So that was, it was all on me.
And he loves those iPads on the bench. He loves them.
You don't need two head coaches because they have a culture there. So if you're a guy who's coming in your first year, you just kind of got to, you know, tickle the balls a little bit and kind of do what you're told, right? And so anyways, so one summer, I was telling you, we went down to this place called Lake Nona, and Lou's secretary called me and said, hey, you guys are going to go down to Florida, middle of the summer. Bring your golf clubs. It's going to be this, you know, week or 10-day kind of thing down in Florida. I'm like, this is amazing. Now they're finally speaking my language. Now they got some respect for me. I'm going to go on a golf trip, right? And I get down there, and it's a mental toughness camp. I got to go 10 days being fed food like couscous on a plate like this and double workouts and oh my God. And so at the end of that 10 days that summer, we have a barbecue at Dr. Mac's house. Okay. Now for 10 days, I'm telling you guys, I lost 15 pounds. I hadn't eaten a thing. We go to this barbecue and Dr. Mac had these two yellow labs. And so we're all sitting at the table and finally we're having like some barbecue, but they put these portions, but we had a steak. And I was so hungry, I could have ate the dogs. I was starving. And so at the end of this dinner, Dr. Mac has the chef cut up the steak and he puts the plate down on the floor and these dogs eat a couple of these filet mignon steaks. Okay. Fast forward to they win the cup that next year. I get traded, and at Christmas I come into into the change room in Montreal. And, you know, in the fan mail, I got a Christmas card from Dr. McMullen. And so I opened this and I'm like, fuck these guys sending me a Christmas card. And the front of the Christmas card was Dr. McMullen with these two dogs, which I hated. I'm like, this is brutal. And I open it up and they gave me a full share of the Stanley Cup playoff bonus. So it was a couple $100, something like that, right?
That's nice.
And man, it was probably the first time since I was a grown adult that I got emotional. I'm like, holy shit. So I got to phone Lou and tell him thank you and whatever. And he said, hey, you were a big part of this. And just that gave me a little spark to be better. It gave me a little spark to be better. And, you know, things started happening. I got an opportunity in Montreal and I'll never forget it. And cause this is Lou, I made the All-Star game the next season, and then I was, I think, third or fourth in the Norris voting. And Scott Niedermayer won it that year, and I played with him. So I called Lou's assistant, and I said, "Hey, can I get Nieder's number? I want to congratulate him." He said, "Yeah, hold on." And Lou gets on the phone, and he's like, "Hello, Sheldon." I go, "Hey, Lou, how's it going?" And he goes, I want to tell you congratulations, you know, on the year and all that. And, you know, we've seen that potential in you. And he said, but I want to tell you, he goes, you have a tendency to get lazy and complacent. He goes, don't get lazy and complacent. This is a guy I hadn't played for, 2 years. Yeah. And that conversation changed my life. It really did. I was like, holy smokes, this guy, that's about as good as a compliment as you're ever going to get from Lou Lamoriello.
It probably gave you so much value, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think there's another player in the history of hockey where, like, the team went on to win the cup and then they traded him earlier and then they're like, hey, you were a part of this. That's rare.
It just really motivated me to become a better professional, not a better player, because your gifts are what you got, right? Yeah. A little bit of opportunity and whatever, but it really motivated me to be a better professional. If Lou Lamoriello was going to say that, and Jacques Lemaire was one of my favorite people. We played the Rangers. I scored my first goal, game winner, playing the Rangers. First star, I come out. I think okay, now Nieder's going to sit out next game. I'm in, you know? And I come to the rink the next day and my jersey's not hanging in the stall. And so I go and they say, hey, Jacques wants to see you in the room. So I go over to his room. I go, what's up? And he goes, you're not playing tonight. You know why? And I go, what do you mean, dude? I just had the best game I had as a professional. He goes, you can give more. We're not happy with that. You can give more. And it's things like that, as you know, with Jacques and Larry and Lou. It's these backhanded compliment, but it's always, and you guys know being professionals, all you want is black or white. The gray area for me is like, come on, dude. It was black or white with the New Jersey Devils, and it was black or white pretty much the whole time with the Canadians, because that's how those organizations are. That's the culture. That's the standard of it. And so, man, I'm just so grateful for the teams that I ended up on early in my career. It could have been a lot different.
Yeah, it could have, and shoulda, woulda, coulda. And it's funny you talk about Lemire. We had Lemire on here. He doesn't do these things. He was on here for like 2 hours and 45 minutes, right, Tim? We couldn't get him on.
Yeah,
he doesn't do these, right?
Amazing. Yeah,
Right.
no.
He had like 9 Stanley Cups.
him.
I don't have a playoff game. It was really hard. It was hard to ask him some questions.
But I friggin' loved him. It goes back. I met him just after I was drafted. We picked him up, a friend of mine from Boston. We picked him up, Lafleur and Gilles Lupien, outside the Boston Garden, and gave them a ride to the hotel. And on the way, I told them, I'm going to be playing with you guys next year. And they start laughing at me, right? They're laughing in the back. So I go,
My career would have been done. My career would have been done right there.
And Jacques goes, how are you going to do that? And I said, well, I was drafted by the Canadians last year. I play hockey here at Northeastern in Boston. He said, oh, and you're going to be with us next year. You come to camp. I said, yeah, I'm going to be there. So sure enough, I fucking showed up in camp, and Jacques had left. But he came back. He went to Switzerland. He came back before the season was over, and I was with the team. We were having lunch one day, and he came in and had lunch with the boys. And he went to Larry. He says, who's the new guy on the team, the guy who's doing all the fighting? And he said, Chris Donald, he's right here. So he introduced me to Jacques, and Jacques sees me. He goes, Tabernac, it's you, the kid from Boston. You told me you were going to be. I said, I fucking told you I was going to be here. And ever since then, I'm going to tell you right now, I've had a relationship with that guy that probably my strongest relationship in the game through all these years. I absolutely love that man. He did so much for me as a player.
Yep.
And indebted to him. But yeah, so Jacques, anyway, you get to Montreal. You go from New York, China Club. Now you come to another city that, man, the lights are bright and, you know, the expectation is large. Stepping in here, so you carried some of them things with you from the Devils that you learned from Lou and company and Jacques. How did it start here in Montreal? Did you get off on the right foot, or was Mike Therrien the coach when you came?
Alain Vigneault was the coach.
Vigneault.
Yeah, Vigneault was the coach. So I got traded at night. We were on a road trip with the Devils. We were in Colorado. And I got traded at night, and, you know, Lou says, hey, you know, we traded you. I knew it was coming. I hadn't played, you know, 3 or 4 of the previous games, and so I knew something was up. And so he calls me, and he said, this isn't bad. This is good for you, you know, and go and be professional, whatever he said, you know. And Reggie Houle was our GM, and so he
that was a good trade, Reg.
Later.
The one good trade he made.
Well, I really liked him. You know, what I really liked is, well, this is how it started. So he says, hey, how you doing? We're going to get you on a flight tonight. We played Boston the next day. The Canadians did. And so he said, we're going to get you on a red-eye flight tonight. You meet the team in Boston and play tomorrow night. And I said, yeah, sounds great. He goes, because I heard you don't sleep much anyways. And I loved it. I'm like, finally, this guy gets me. This guy gets me. And so I came to Montreal, and it was kind of a lean team that year, right? They were kind of rebuilding, get rid of Malakoff and some of their good guys. But we had great veterans, Trevor Linden and Scott LaChance and Eric Weinrich. And so we had a lot of great guys. So I was only there for maybe 15 or 20 games to finish that season. But I loved absolutely loved the guys. And there's, as you know, there's something really, as much as I hated the Canadians, the minute I walked in the building, from the security guy parking your cars, all the way up to meeting the legends, I was like, this is professional hockey. This immediately, it was like, oh, wow, this is what it means to be a professional. And I just loved, from the second I got there, I loved it. I did. I love seeing the guy. I loved how the alumni is. Yeah. You know, I just, there's a lot of prestige seeing the flower around and the pocket rocket. And,
yeah.
The Rocket passed away that year that I got traded. Yeah. So I had only been there for, you know, a few months. And then there was this huge thing, you know, all the legends flew in. I got to see Chelly, you know, and Chelly told me to, you know, this is, there's something that goes along with playing for the Montreal Canadiens. And so he kind of gave me a little heads up. And anyways, it just, I really felt like that's what being a professional was, like playing for the Montreal Canadiens,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You forgot about,
it felt weird the first time.
Being an Oilers fan pretty quick.
Dude, I did not like putting on the Canadians, like seeing my name. I was like, the whole flight, I remember going, God, with blue helmets and red jerseys and the whole Montreal, and then you see your name, you know, you go into Boston Garden and that jersey has your name on it. And it was like, oh, it took my breath away. Like, honestly, it was like, oh, this is what it is. And that feeling never left me. I loved it from the moment that I put that jersey on till the time I left. And by the way, we weren't like, you know, some great team that was a perennial playoff team. No. I was there for some lean years too, and it was still amazing.
Yeah, but you did experience that playoff buzz that you get in this city. And listen, I've been here since 2011, and boy, when there's something, when there's a good hockey team here, and you're in the playoffs, come springtime, I mean, people, you can feel it. You can feel it, yes. And I haven't felt that in so long here. It's ridiculous. Yep. But you know, you had and. You made a jump. There's no question about it. It started, you know, on the power play with Markov and Kovalev. And, you know, 03, 04, you had 15 goals, 20 assists. Really good season. Went off in the playoffs. The year before, you were in the playoffs too. But what was the year? Was it 05, 06 when you beat Boston in Boston?
Yeah,
because I was there, and it was Game 7, right? That was fucking unbelievable for me.
We were down 3-1. Yeah, we were down 3-1. They were the first place team. We were 8, and in Game 1, we're in overtime, and Glenn Murray kind of slashed Kovalev, and he kind of went down.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of ran into Kobe, and they went in, and they scored, and. You know, after it, I said, look, it happens, but, you know, you can't quit on the play. And then the Montreal fans kind of shit on me because Kovalev was like the prodigal son. And anyways, we come back to win that series. And to your point, when we flew back from Boston and we get to Montreal, they had the roads blocked off coming out of the Bell Center. They had the roads blocked off, and we had to get police escorts out of the round 1. And it was incredible. Well, you know, I was like, holy
crazy
shit. Yeah, it was something that I wish, you know, we all wish we could have won a cup, you know, but that I still root for that team. Like I hope they do well, because that city is they lift that team up. I mean, it's incredible. And I don't say that like Edmonton doesn't do that. They got great fans. Jersey certainly doesn't have fans that are elevating, you know, your play. But in Montreal, and you guys know, you've been around a long time, it's going to make you or break you. You're going to play in that city or you can't. It's
Yeah,
it's going to show you right away who you are.
Yeah, yeah. It tests your mettle. There's no question about it. And that year, Game 7, I was at the game in Boston. I friggin' was so happy that the Habs were able to pull it off. And I remember that's really, and I'd seen you play, but that was, you know, I think the first time I really got to you know, focus on you when you were on the ice. And, you know, I've seen it on TV and all that, but I really loved the way you played because you were tough. You could play the game. You moved the puck, but you had a fucking awesome shot. You didn't take no shit. You were tough around the net. Just all those good things you want in a defenseman. Like coaches love guys like that. And you certainly blossomed in Montreal. So that was huge. And you say it.
Thank you.
There is nothing like it is here because we went to conference final. I think it was like 84, 85 against the Islanders. We came back. We flew into Montreal. We get off the plane. We're coming through. I'm with Rick Green. And there's fucking people all over the airport. And he's going, can you fucking imagine if we ever won the Stanley Cup? Yeah. And then sure enough, 86 we did. And it was fucking insanity.
Man.
It was insanity. You can only imagine. I'm telling you, I had the summer of my life. It was incredible. It was an incredible time.
But now you're just the guy that won one cup, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the place you want to win the one cup.
No,
I think
but Nux is saying, like, when fans ask, they're like disappointed you only have one cup, right?
Yeah, like people say to me,
right.
You know, people don't know. They'll go, hey, how many cups you have? I go, 1. They go, 1? Only 1? I'm like, fuck you. Only 1. Because everybody else got like 6 or 9
4 or 5.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
it's
but
it's
so
crazy.
you got a taste of that in the
remember
playoffs.
when you guys won.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a taste of that. I remember when you guys won, and even in Edmonton, because we were just starting to be a dynasty there, right? And so Edmonton was winning cups right after you. Steve Smith scored on his own goal, but I remember looking at the newspaper, and I was a young kid, man. I've been 9 or 10 years old maybe at that time. So right when you're an impressionable kid, and I remember reading the newspaper, and the front page was like cars turned over on St. Catharines and on fire, and I'm like, holy shit, they're doing all that because of a cup? Like I couldn't fathom it. And looking back on that, that's like an early memory I have is watching, you know, when you guys won the cup.
And then you're like, one day I'm going to go on that guy's podcast.
I said, one day I'm going to be on that street partying, flipping cars too with the rest of the fans.
It's funny. And to win it here, I got to tell you, they invited family. We have family. They had one of them buses for parents and siblings. It was unbelievable. One of them trolley buses in the parade.
Yeah.
And then they had a big time at Queen Elizabeth, the hotel. You could bring all your family members. It was unbelievable how they treated everybody. Man. Molson was Mr. Molson was awesome as an owner. But so your years in Montreal, I mean, you take off, you establish yourself. And I gotta figure this one out. I had a hard time figuring it out. Other than that, you're from Alberta and you loved the Oilers growing up. You get to be a free agent and you fucking sign with the Oilers.
Yeah.
And
so
what did you, because just from afar knowing Sheldon, I figure you're more New York Ranger, LA King, not fucking Edmonton Oiler, you know?
Yeah.
What happened there?
So
was it the dollars, just the dollars, or?
No, actually, it was Montreal had offered me more money. The highest offer I got was from the Capitals. So I'll tell you what happened. And you guys know, people are like, you think you get the free agency and you just, you know, you got the whole pick of the litter. Like, you know, you're the king of the.
But
dance.
You're a wanted guy. I mean, every fucking team would want a guy like you.
So that year, so what was going on was, you know, I had always had a high conflict divorce. My second kid was on the way in May, so right before I became a free agent. You know, my ex-wife just was like, I'm not taking 2 kids now back to Montreal and back and forth. And a lot went into that. It wasn't just the hockey thing. But to your point, day one of free agency hits. Okay. And so two teams that I was talking to was New York and LA. They said, okay, we're going to sign one of these guys. It was Chris Drury, I think, and Scott Gomez were the two guys who were the big free agents forwards that year. So New York, the first day of free agency, offers both those guys a contract. One of them's going to accept. The other guy is going to go to LA probably, and then they're going to fit me in somewhere. Well, New York Gomez and Drury both end up signing in New York. So the first 2 hours of free agency, New York's out. And we had been talking to Sather like the whole.
You were thinking about going there.
That's where I wanted to go, right? That's where I thought it was going to go. Like I said, ex-wife now, it was a lot easier to say, hey, get on a plane and go to New York because she could do some work modeling or whatever, than it was to go to Montreal with two young kids, customs and everything. It was a little more to it. Well, okay, so they got those guys. Well, I was living in LA in the summers. And so the Kings end up calling me a couple hours later and said, well, we're not going to spend all that money on one player. And so they went and got like 3 different players, Jesus and someone else. So the first 4 hours of free agency, the two places I was sure I was going close up.
So right? You wanted to go to New York or LA?
I wanted to go to LA because that's where my kids were. And so that made the most sense. And so, now I just had my 4th shoulder surgery after that season. Okay. So now the next couple of days of free agency were teams that I didn't really want to go to, where, it wasn't really, it just weren't teams that I wanted to go play on. And so now you get to like day, 4, and now it's like, well, hold on. Why hasn't, Saray signed yet? Well, a lot of these teams wanted me to fly in, do a physical, yada, yada. I wouldn't have passed the physical. I just had my 4th shoulder surgery.
I went. And physical, how about the wrist, too? I forgot that. The wrist, too, right? Fuck.
The wrist and my shoulder. So I just had a fucking laundry list of injuries. And so, we get to whatever it was, day 7 or 8. And Montreal was a team. They offered me more money than I took in Edmonton. And Bob Gainey said, look, here's the deal. If you want it, we're doing this right now. If you don't want it, you got 10 minutes to figure this out because we got another guy we're going to offer this deal to. I said, okay. Literally, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, across the bottom of the screen, Roman Hamrlik signs with the Canadiens. Well, there goes my next best option. The next one, because I want to go back to Montreal at that point, right? And so it just ended up, as I was talking to my parents and whatever, it just, Edmonton, now I was having another, like I just said, my second daughter was being born. Everything personally started aligning with Edmonton. They had just lost Pronger the year before. Not that I was there to replace him, but the story they sold was, well, we just lost, to Carolina in the finals in Game 7. Yeah. We're going to get where they signed Dustin Penner to an offer sheet. And so it started to sound like that was going to be a great fit. And so that's kind of why I signed in Edmonton. I took less money to go there than I was getting, offers that I'd gotten in a couple other places, but it just really started making sense. And to me, I felt like, they had just been to the finals. They had a good leadership group, and I
got a shot at the cup.
I bid on it. Yeah. I bid on it,
Yeah. So you go there, you're certainly the first year, 26 games, just okay season. And then, the second season, 08-09, you ripped it up. I mean, ripped it up. How were things there? No playoffs. Well, that
first year that I signed there, like I said, I had shoulder
07,
surgery.
08. Yeah.
07, 08. So it was summer 07. We're going into training camp. Like I said, they had a great leadership group. So, you guys know how you do the physicals early as a veteran, you kind of go early, right? And so I get there early. I'm having a coffee in the training room. I'm not supposed to play till mid-November. That was the timeline. And so I'm sitting with like Dwayne Rollison and Steve Stais and, Ethan Morrow, all the veterans, Sean Horkoff, and Craig McTavish walks in and, he said, oh, just the guy I wanted to see. And I said, yeah, you finally wanted to meet me, huh? And he goes, no, I want to know when the fuck you're going to play hockey. What, why we brought you in here. So he calls me out in front of all these guys, right? And so now I'm pissed off. So Kevin Lowe or Kenny Lowe never told Mac T that I wasn't available. And so, when he doesn't see me on the training camp list, he kind of calls me out, and it's not his fault. He didn't know, but that's the foot I got off on in Edmonton. So immediately I felt like I was challenged. Oh yeah, well, okay, I'm going to show you how much I care. I'm going to come back and play early, right? I'll make it back a month early. And I think 2 or 3 games in, I tore my shoulder again. So I didn't play much my first year there because I just got injured again my first year. So the next year when I was healthy, I went in and I was able to, have a good year. We didn't make the playoffs. I think we lost out in like the last game or something.
You were close though that year, right?
We were close. Yeah. Yep. We were really close. And, so I just felt like we were kind of on the right foot. I will say this. I love Mac T. He's a great dude. And Kevin Lowe, when I signed there, Kevin Lowe, he's from Montreal, right? He's
outside of Laval, actually.
Yeah, Laval, yeah. And so he kept picking my brain. He said, "Hey, we want to get more free agents to come here and yada yada." And Montreal was the gold standard of how they treat families. You know what I mean? Their room, all that. And so he said, we want some ideas. We want to pick your brain on some things. And so, after 2 years, things are going along. We didn't have a wives lounge. And so our wives after the games had to sit with, all the drunk fans with the babies booing us because we suck. So there were some suggestions I was making, and, Kevin was just shooting me down. He's like, you silver spooner, we didn't bring you in here to be a prima donna. And okay, so I just could never settle into Edmonton. As much as I wanted to, I just couldn't find that groove there.
So you get that last.
Was that after you scored 23 goals, or that Kevin Lowe said that?
Yeah, well, that was the year I had a good year. My second year I was there, I think 08, 09, I had a good, the All-Star game was actually in Montreal, and I made the All-Star team and got to go back to Montreal. Like, life was good that year, I was playing good. It was in Edmonton. Things were kind of moving. And, but I was feeling like, and I don't have to tell you guys this, when your family and your friends, when you don't have to worry about that and you can go into a wives lounge after and they're safe and they're sound and they've had a good time and they want to come to games, that takes a lot of, the distraction away. Exactly. It takes a lot of the distraction away. And we just never had that. And so I would say something and then I was made to feel like, just shut your mouth and play hockey. Well, I just came from Montreal where they treat you like royalty and we weren't, perennial cup winners. That's just the way the Montreal Canadiens do things. They're elite.
They still do it that way.
I felt,
right?
I know, it's the best. It's the best.
For mediocrity, but they still do it,
Exactly.
That hasn't changed.
Exactly. It's not dependent on how you're playing or your performance. Yep. They treat you like this. And if you suck, if you're on a 10-game losing streak, it's like that. If you're on a 10-game winning streak, it's like that. And so, it just started to become a little bit of butting heads with the management. And then what happened in Edmonton, the way I went.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to. Because it was sour, right? It went bad. And I read about this, and I went through the same thing you went through, but I want you to explain it.
Yeah, so, I'd had injuries there and whatever, and the beginning of, I think, 09-10, so that might have been my third year that I was there. Home opener, we're playing Calgary. I'm going back to get a puck. Yep. So I'm going back to get a puck, home opener. And Joe McGinley goes in and reaches for a puck. And he kind of catches my skates, knocked me out. I had a concussion. And so we're coming. I come back, missed a couple months. I come back around January. And next, I've never been I've never been tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, go fight someone." I just never have been. You're up. You got next shift. You know what?
Yeah, you
No
don't
one
have
has
to be
to tell
told.
me what to do. Yeah, I'm not an idiot. I'm not playing against Joe Sakic. I'm playing against Scott Parker. I get it. What I got to do, right? And so, I'm walking out. We're getting beat like 3 or 4 to 1, going for third period. And Tom Rennie, as I'm going out, grabs my jersey and he says, "Hey, now's your time to go get that guy."
Fuck you.
Like, what? Right. So anyway, I do. I go in, and Jerome is a great guy, as professional as it gets. We scrap. I break my hand on his head. We're coming up to the Olympic break that year. And so I said, and I was going back to California because that's where I was living. And I said, well, I want to get this surgery. Pretty simple surgery. Put a couple pins in there. It's a boxer's fracture. Shouldn't be a big deal. Well, no, Edmonton says, because I had asked for a trade that year. I said, if it comes up, and we're going to suck here and you want to go for the rebuilding and you guys don't think, if I'm not worth it, whatever, move me. Okay. So it wasn't really like this handshake deal, but they were pissed off, right? And so no one was happy. Anyways, I said, I want to get this surgery. They said, no, you're getting it here. So it actually kind of changed the CBA because now you're allowed to go get that second opinion, right? You're encouraged to go get it. They said, no, you're getting it done here in Edmonton. I'm like, why wouldn't you guys let me just go to a doctor that I want to see? Go to, LA, you have to assume has better doctors than maybe Edmonton, Alberta. That was our thinking. No, you're getting it here. Okay. Surgery goes fine. The Olympic break is happening. I'm back in California. I got to fly back to Edmonton after the Olympic break to see the doctor and potentially come back and play about a month before the deadline and try to get moved. Well, my hand gets an infection, right? So when I get back to Edmonton, the day before I'm going to see the doctor, I end up in the emergency room. Now I have a staph infection, a blood and a bone infection. I'm sick. Like, I've never been sicker than I had a lot of injuries, but I've never been that sick. And so I spend 3 days or 4 days in the ICU. And finally, but the team's on a road trip. So everything happens so quickly that communication was getting lost. Like, I'm so sick. I'm not calling Kevin Lowe going, "Hey, buddy."
That's the last fucking thing. Yeah.
I'm in ICU. They're talking about cutting my hand off.
Calling
I'm
your
not
mother.
worried about making the game in Nashville. Exactly. I'm calling my mom. He's, I'm making a will, not, getting ready to play in Nashville. So, someone comes in to see me. I don't know. It might have been our assistant trainer, our strength coach. And, I got this PICC line. I just got out of the ICU. I've lost 15 pounds. I'm sick as a dog. And he says, "How you feeling?" I said, "Well, I've kind of been better." And he says, "Yeah." He goes, I talked to Kevin and Daryl Cates, the owner, and they think you're milking your injury.
Oh, fuck.
So they'll trade you. Now I'm on painkillers. I'm on, vancomycin. I'm ready to go. I picked up that phone and I left a couple messages for people that I shouldn't have left messages
Good for you.
And, just how I was feeling, and I felt like of all the things to say that I'm mailing it in was like really hurtful. And I get it. They didn't have the information, but to assume that and tell somebody that,
and you're laying in a fucking
I just
hospital
thought was
bed.
wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hello.
And so my year-end meeting, I told Steve Tambolini what I thought of him. And I said, if he had any problems with that, let me know and we can figure it out. Meanwhile, my hand's in a cast. I got a bag of, a
bag of milk over your shoulder. Bag of milk because you milk.
Fanny pack. Exactly. Yeah, bag of milk. Exactly. So we had some words and I just told the media, I said, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I was a little bit emotional. I was on a lot of medicine. I was just feeling like, letting it out. And I said, well, maybe they should trade me and we could, start over. Well, that they thought was like, no one does that to the Edmonton Oilers. Who do you think you are? And as I told you with like the Silver Spooner thing and the whole thing. So, I have a really good summer that year of working out and I had the mindset like I did back in 03, 04, 04, 05. I had the mindset of like, I'm coming in and I'm kicking ass and taking names and then they can trade me, get my value. Well, I come in a couple days before it. I'm skating around with the guys, and the trainer comes up. He says, "Hey, this is optional, by the way. This is an optional skate 2 days before practice." He said, "You're not allowed to skate with the guys tomorrow." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, management doesn't want you around the guys." I said, "Okay, so call my agent." Kevin Lo-Fi, they're at a rookie camp. He comes back. He meets me in the house at 6 in the morning, and I say, "Kevin, dude, I'm ready to go, dude. You know, I'll get my value up, and I'll be professional, and we'll just move on. You're gonna have to apologize to Daryl Cates." I said, "I'm not apologizing to anybody. I'm not wrong, so I'm not doing that." I said, "Okay." So the next day, you know, disinvited to camp, and my agent says they're gonna send you the minors.
What was the apology for, the Cates, though? What did you say to him?
Because I left the voicemail, like, "I'll never play again." Patrick Waugh asked. I was just a little emotional, right? But I did see him, which is funny. I see him in the gym a couple days later that our strength coach had before training camp or during training camp. And I seen Daryl, and I said, "Hey, Daryl, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Hey, man, I don't know what you guys' plans are for me, but I'm ready to go and be professional and get this over with." And he said, "Well, you got to talk to Kevin Long." So I talked to Kevin. He says, "Well, you got to apologize to Daryl." I said, "I just talked to Daryl. He told me to talk to you, right?" So and so they said, "Well, we're going to send you the minors." And it was in Oklahoma City. I go, "Fuck, I haven't played in the minors since, 94. I said, "All right, whatever. I'll go down there for a little bit."
Pay me.
You're paying me, no escrow. It's like, okay.
Fuck you.
And then they said, "Well, we're not sending you to the minor, to our minor league team because you're
we don't want you around the guys.
Poison all these kids." Nothing. So they sent me to Hershey, which was Washington's farm team. And, guys, first 3 games, I didn't touch the puck. Guys were taking runs at me. And finally, third game, I get in a fight and I break my hand again. And so I call up Kevin, and Eddie Olczyk was our assistant. I go, "You idiots, what did you think was going to happen?" So now I'm hurt down in the minors for half the year, right?
Pay me.
It was a humbling experience. It was definitely, you see the really great sides of business, and then you see the other side of business.
You sound like a bad import in like Russia. Like they're just trying to get you to quit.
That's what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to quit. I had 2 more years on my contract.
So they didn't have to pay us.
I can ride this out.
Well,
what? It was unfortunate, but
I can certainly empathize you from the standpoint. I've been through that infection stuff. I've had it with my hands. Okay. When I was in college, okay, I had teeth in my hand. I got infected. I was in the hospital for a month. I could take penicillin back then. Back in 2010, I had a staph infection in my ankle, and I was found out I was allergic to penicillin. I had 3 surgeries in 5 days. They almost amputated my foot because they couldn't get rid of the infection. It was in the bone.
Exactly.
They scraped it. They power washed it. They did everything. After the second one, my temperature was 104. The doctor came in, 29 years old, Harvard kid. He comes in to me, looks at me, he said, "Chris, here's the deal. I'm going to go in one more time, okay? And if we don't get control of this infection on this surgery, I'm going to have to amputate your foot. Are you okay with that?" I said, "Am I okay? Fuck, are you fucking kidding me? I don't want to fucking amputate." He said, "Chris, you got to understand."
Exactly what
happened. And I didn't.
Me.
He said, "It'll go to your heart and it'll kill you, or it'll go to your spine and paralyze you. Or it'll paralyze you." And I'm there, "No way." So he said, "Yahweh." So thank God, the third surgery worked. And then 3 years ago, I had it in my knee. I had a knee replacement. 2 weeks after, I'm out of the woods, feeling good. They come in and change my bandage. A nurse came in, day nurse, came in, changed my bandage, left. That night, staph infection. In the hospital 2 weeks. I had a PICC line for 3 months.
Yeah, right to the heart. Sits right on top of the heart.
So I know what you're going through.
I had that fanny pack.
And to say you're fucking milking it.
Emotional.
I don't blame you for fucking being pissed off. You know,
Well,
to
I
say
woke
you're
up from one
milking
of
it.
my
Yeah,
naps.
that's the thing. Saying
Well,
something that's not even an option in your mind, right? Like milking it.
It's,
Like, yeah.
and if you have a problem, if with me, pick up that phone, you're the GM, give me a call and say, yo, what's up? And I would have told you, or I would have said, you know what, why don't you get in your car and drive to the University of Alberta Hospital and come have a look? They did a surgery on my hand and they cut me open from my middle finger all the way to my wrist on both sides. And then they had to set it in this cast, like back like this, because it had to ooze all the
Shit
all the
out.
pus, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of wake up from one of my naps. I mean, I'm hitting the pain stuff because I'm in bad shape.
Same
and I wake
deal.
up from one of my naps and there's, 4 of these interns with the doctor. And, I kind of wake up and I said, how's it looking, doc? Am I okay? And he goes, we just hope it doesn't get to your heart because that's going to kill you. But we hope we don't have to cut your hand off either. I'm like,
Right? It's a shock,
what?
isn't it?
It was a shock. It was like,
And
I
then
put my head back on the pillow.
Edmonton calls and they're like, quit milking it.
They're like, can you play in Nashville tomorrow? I'm like,
Yeah.
so it was a bad, I don't really blame Ed. It was just the communication thing that just got, then we just got kind of in a, Mexican standoff. It's like, oh, fuck me. Well, fuck you. And that's kind of how it happened. But, I went with Gretz to Oiler alumni thing in Banff, like in 2016. And I seen Kevin Lowe and Gretz is like, it's water under the bridge, dude. You're retired. And so I was able to say, hey, sorry for how it all went down. And, my parents did get to see me put on an Oiler jersey and I did have, a good time there. And my friends were supportive.
Just sucks when it ends that way, right?
It just sucks because that was never like in my career, that was never like who I was. Right. And so for it to go down like that and, the perception, not everyone knows the story. So the perception is this guy wants to get out. He's married to a movie star down in LA, get him out of here. And I'm like, whoa, anyways, that year they ended up buying me out my last year. And the first day of free agency, I got a call from Joe Newendike and he said, do you still have some left? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, okay, we're going to sign you for a year. And, we're a team in transition, so it might get you another contract with us, but it's going to give you a chance to get back and get in the game. And, man, I was so grateful for that. And I got to go do it in a place that wasn't Montreal or Edmonton where all the eyes were on you. You got to go to Dallas and just kind of be myself and leave the rink, and life was good. And no pressure.
I
wasn't making $6 million exactly. I was making $1 million, and it was. I just
do a lot of golf, playing a lot of golf in Dallas.
I played golf with Brendan Morrow, and Minnie Mo was there, and I loved the life, and in Montreal, especially in Edmonton, you leave the rink and you can never really turn it off, right? Someone's calling, someone's seeing you at dinner, so you're always kind of.
You're going to Wanda's, not the golf course.
Exactly. I'm going inside to stay warm. But yeah, again, man, everything.
So Dallas, you go to Dallas, you go that year, you a decent season for sure, and then Anaheim, your last season. Now I want to know, and listen, you played the game tough, played it hard, you fought, and I know at the end for me, it was extremely difficult. It was getting difficult mentally because I started to question myself. I would sit on the bench. I remember I told Tim this, you heard this fucking story so many times, but I fought Stu Grimson and the next night, Big Jim McKenzie. And I remember going back to the bench saying, fuck, it's getting tough. This is fucking, what? I still did my job to the end. I fought right to the fucking end, but boy, it was getting tougher on me mentally and physically. I was fucking beat up. How was that with you? Like all the injuries? All the shit, was it starting to get tough mentally on you?
It was really getting tough. Also, my kids were becoming a certain age where I was starting to miss, they're 7, 8, 9.
Now you had 2 kids at that point.
2 girls, yeah.
2 girls.
And so Anaheim was a perfect landing spot. Koivu was there, who was obviously in Montreal with me, and I wanted to sign for 1 more year, and they signed me for 3. you know, and I'm
Anaheim.
like, oh, Anaheim.
Hello.
And so, and then we had
nice.
that lockout that year. So we missed half a year. So that season in Dallas or Anaheim was only half a season. I was, for a player like you, Chris, or me and Stapes, I don't know about you, but like the motivation has to be high. It has to be, you have to be able to get yourself like, you know, spitting nails a little bit and be a good leader and come in the rink and be, you know, and I just was getting harder. I was missing my kids' Christmas concerts and this and the travel. And it was just really getting harder to be a professional. And I got hurt at the end of that last year, broke my hand. And
Fuck your hand.
and
again.
that was
That
it.
sucks.
That's how you went out. You know, it's funny, right? Because we all have this idea of how you should go out. Like Tom Brady, he goes to the Buccaneers, he wins another Super Bowl.
later.
You're like,
Yeah.
bro, what are you doing?
Does it-
You know? Well, for him, he's like, well, I can win another one. You know, so
Yeah.
you never, as an athlete, you never really go out the way you have the romantic idea of I'm going to win a
Here's
Stanley
two guys.
Cup. And
I'm going to give you, I'll give you two guys. Forget about any other sport, hockey. Lanny McDonald. He went out, he scored a goal in the last game, and Ray Bork. He won a Stanley Cup the last game he ever played. Those two guys, the only two I know in the game of hockey that went out that way. It just doesn't happen. You know, it doesn't happen. You know, percentage-wise, it's
I
a
lost
very...
in Game 5 in Germany. I was playing in the German league. That wasn't my plan. That was my last game.
your bag is already packed at the rink, huh? You're like, all right, what
Exactly.
time's the first flight home tomorrow?
And that was it. My career was done. I was like, all
That
right.
was it. And you're probably happy. Like when my career ended, like they said, okay, here's the thing. You got to get the surgery. You can try to come back. But to your point, it was getting harder, man. Like you know, now I'm 36 or 37 years old and it's just getting harder to like, I'm working harder. I'm at the rink earlier. I'm leaving later. I'm, you know, skating laps. It just was getting harder. And they said, well, here's the deal. You can get the surgery and your career is over. I also seen the writing on the wall a little bit that, you know, I wasn't going to be playing the power play and being a top four guy anymore. I'd probably be in and out of the lineup. And
you're not going to be Chelly, who played till fucking 49.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it was just like, okay, this is how it is. But yeah, I mean, you know, I wish it would have ended differently, but I look back on it and I was just so lucky to.
You had a great career. You had
I had a
fucking
great career. It was okay. Yeah.
Did you
It's,
keep
know,
breaking the same hand?
Was it?
both
You were breaking
actually.
going back and forth.
It was my left one the first time, and I had to have surgeries to get that going. I broke my scaphoid, and I finally went down to Duke University where the guy rebuilt Grant Hill. You remember the basketball guy?
Yeah,
was
yeah,
having
yeah.
all those
Oh, yeah.
surgeries with his. So this guy invented this surgery. So my left ended up working good. Then I broke my right one in that fight, and then the infection, and then it just never healed properly. And so now I got two bad hands, and I cross-checked. We're playing Detroit in the playoffs, and I cross-checked that abducator, and I broke my hand, and
Man.
that was it. That was it. And so
So
you
the
know,
game's
that's,
over.
that's how I went.
Yeah.
So
You
the
still
game's
have the
over.
hardest slap shot, though, unofficial, right? Don't you
Say
have
again?
don't you have the hardest slap shot unofficial, though?
I did for about 2 months, and then Big Chara came in and absolutely.
Fuck, you had a cannon
Throttled
too.
it.
I can't imagine fucking, you know, harder than that. I can't imagine, like, especially in today's game, how they all block shots, right? Like everybody, I fucking hated blocking shots.
Yeah.
They were-
I'm like,
were
what's
not-
a block shot? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So we're playing Boston. I was in Montreal, and we're playing Boston. It's a 5-on-3 and a killing penalties. And the puck goes over to Big Z, and he's going to one-time it. And I come out and I flamingo, right? I flamingo, beat Jose top corner. Well, the next day we're watching video. And fuck me, Terry, and put it on. And these guys roasted, or maybe it was Claude Julien. These guys roasted me. So I'm like, well, now I got to block a shot the next time. Now the eyes are on me. You know,
Yeah.
I used to say, Jose's making $6 million in there, and you want me to block shots? This guy can
Let him
make a save. Fucking make a
Yeah,
save,
yeah.
dude.
Look at the pads he's got.
You know, come on, man.
It's funny how it changes, right? Because in the 80s, it was fucking get out of the way and let the goalie see it. right? Now it's not that way anymore. I fucking hated blocking shots, but that's what it was. Now it's changed. You better get in fucking front of the puck.
I sucked at it. It would always hit me like in the back or something.
just
just like fuck. Like it never was good.
We played. Adam Burris has become one of my best buddies, and when the Hawks were, he was a little shit disturber, and they had that other Dave Bolin, and he was a shit disturber. So we used to just get our asses handed to us when I was in Edmonton playing these guys. And they always used to chirp me. And one game we're losing, we ended up losing 10-1, but we're like 7-1 after the second period. So I told these guys, I said, I'm going to fucking kill one of you guys. Like, the game's out. I don't care. I'm making a lot of money. If I get a 2-game suspension, I'm good. So I'm just letting you guys know I'm going to kill you. So, nothing happens that game. Well, the next game, because I played with Burrish in Dallas. Well, the next game, the coach, Quinville, tells these guys, you got to get out on the power play, or when we're penalty killing, you got to block Surrey's shot. They're like, oh, fuck. I didn't know where it was going, so they don't know where it's going, right?
Yeah.
And so Burrish comes out, one of the first shifts, he comes out, and I hit him in the shin pad, and I cracked his shin pad, but I heard him scream like, ah! And so I gave it to him, right? I'm like, and so he skates off, his shin pad's broken. Bolin comes out, replaces him. So we're in the zone. This is the same shift. And I take a slapper, and Bolin comes out, and he, kind of the goalie, he opens the palm of his hand, and I hit him in the hand and break his hand. And him too goes, ah! And so the next time we played these guys, I told you guys, someone was going to die. I was going for your neck. And so Burr was, he always used to bug me. He's like, damn, dude, they used to want us to block your shot, but no one knew where it was going. I remember when I got traded to Anaheim, we had Getzlaff and Perry and, and Timu, and we're talking about power play, one of the first things. And they go, hey, Shelly, come here. So I go after him. They're like, hey, dude, like, low shots, like shin pad or lower, no high, like we don't need any heroes here.
And deals.
They're like, dude, you're new here. Like, you give us some respect. And I remember one of the games we were on the power play and I scored, and it went high, and there's a picture of it, Perry standing in front of the net like this, and it just happens to go by him, and he came off. I've never seen a guy so disappointed that I scored a goal in my life. He's just shaking his head. He's looking down, shaking his head like this. Oh, good times.
Yeah, I know Burr. I'm good friends with Burr. He's funny, man. Adam, yeah, he's the best for sure.
So, Shell, the transition out of the game, like, you made some good dough in your career. How was it? Like, because I like asking guys this, because I don't care who you are, how much money you made, how prepared you think you are. You're never really prepared for that day. How was that with you, and how difficult was it to get going again in life in a different direction?
Well, it was really hard. I mean, you guys know, I know you guys from a different kind of program, and
different team.
A different team now. What I thought was something that, my whole life has been wake up, have a routine, have a schedule. You go on a road trip, here's your sheet. This is how your life's going to go. And that starts day one and it ends your last game that you play. Yeah. So your whole life is routine. And as I was getting older and you get into like 2008, 9, 10, we used to be able to take summers off. Like, we're talking about the Jersey thing, right? So I used to kind of, you end in May, and June, July was having a lot of fun, and I'd kind of pick it up again in August, and then I started skating when I went to training camp. Well, everything just became so much more of a routine. And as I was getting older, I was working harder, and, I was living in Malibu with Chelios. And so now I had to be on this guy's routine, and that was harder than playing. And it was just like all this life. So I couldn't wait. I thought I couldn't wait to be retired, and now I could find it. No one telling me what to do. I can sleep in till whenever I want. And, all that was good for a little bit. But I was just getting off track, right? I was using my experience playing, and everyone go, oh, it must have been so hard playing and all your injuries. And I was eating it all up. I'm like, this and that. I was fine. I just now I had all this free time. I had no structure, no one to answer to. And I thought I was going to absolutely love it. And I started going down this road that I never in a million years would have thought that a few years after I retired, I would have put my hands up and said, I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I would have put all my money in the middle of the room and said, you're crazy if you think that's going to happen to me. And that's where I found myself. And so I don't know what sports can do to get guys to make the transition easier. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that the day, and this is the God's honest truth, the day that I went in for a surgery and I got my hand done and I woke up, I had never talked to one more person in hockey management again. Bob Murray wasn't calling me going, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
There was none of that, right? There's no babying. You did it and I was done.
Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
That's it. And that's it. And so I don't know what you can do. What I thought was going to be, I had some money and I had all this freedom and man, this is beautiful. Ended up really, really being hard for me. And it wasn't until I went to my first rehab in January 2017. We have to do all these exercises, right? And I'm like, I'm a fucking professional hockey player, and I have,
I gotta ride a bike in a rehab. Fuck
yeah. You're gonna
tell
me to breathe.
I gotta write my feelings.
Tell me to breathe.
Exactly. I gotta beat a drum and sing songs. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But I had this lady who was my counselor, and she said, I want you to write a grief letter. And I'm like, to who? My life is great. And she said, I want you to write a grief letter to your career. Because I don't think she goes, I don't think you've ever properly mourned that. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. I can't believe I'm going to do this. And as I'm writing it, the tears are hitting the paper. And I just couldn't believe that I had never processed that. I lost a huge part of my life. When I did that, and so that was really therapeutic. I didn't stay sober from that moment on, but it gave me an awareness to like, yeah, man, Mr. Cool Guy, maybe you cared more about that than you thought you did.
Yeah, you get fed, certainly, even though you didn't stay sober off the hop, because I struggled with that too, that transition, and I got lost, and I never properly, grieved the loss of my career at such a young age and really dealt with it in a healthy way. And I didn't stay sober from the get-go either. And, it's funny. A lot of people think, oh, when you go to rehab, it doesn't work. But it does. It may not work the first time. Mm-hmm. And you get that understanding of you really know there is a way out and there's a new way to live life. And you just, maybe the first time, like with me, it took me a while to get it. And there's no shame in that. I'm just glad I was able to live through the times where I went back out and almost bit it. And I mean, almost bit it, did bite it and was brought back. So, and it certainly being in recovery and being able to, assess your life and look at your life and look at yourself and still be yourself, but make some changes within yourself to live a better life and be a better person. And certainly you've done that. Tim has done it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's hard. It's almost like I'm still dealing with the transition. Like I still have I got this, so I'm grateful for this and I'm doing other things, but there's still that gut feeling of like, what the fuck's my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to do?
100%.
And it's so easy to not want to deal with that. Like, it's so easy to be like, I don't want to fucking feel this shit. So I did the same thing for the first year. I was just golfing. Like, I didn't care.
Exactly.
And then next thing you know, it's like, shit, I got to kind of make a little bit of a structure here. And then it was like, it's hard. It's really hard.
Well, also, like, I really thought like my life was over. Like, how you're a professional athlete, playing for the Montreal Canadiens, playing in, all-star games. And now what? I'm going to go sell cars. I'm going to go be a real estate agent. Like it seemed like it was so beneath what I had been doing. Right. And so I think what recovery really gave me was a humility. It's like, bro, you got 40 more years left of your life, hopefully, maybe 50, who knows? What are you going to do? Just sit around and play golf and go on podcasts and talk about hockey? Like what's your purpose going to be? And that's what recovery gave me was, I was able and am able to look through a different set of lenses to be like, oh, this is who I am. You know what? I am a sensitive guy. And I joke with Nux on this because we go to the same meeting. It's like when Nux was playing, can you imagine the Bruins playing the Canadians and, hey, Nux, how you feeling? Oh, boys, I'm like a little sad today. Well, snap out of it, dude, because, we got and so it's just kind of given me a opportunity to like just humble myself and be grateful for what I had and be alive. Like it sounds so corny, right? And Nux, we talk about this all the time. I hate the corny sayings. We see them every time you walk out of a dressing room. Work hard, enjoy the process. It's like, oh my God, shoot me. And AA is just all these sayings, right? And now I live it. There's a lot of people, and there still is, maybe worse than ever, who haven't had the chance to come back to a room. And the gut-wrenching thing is I can't imagine, my kids going to school and someone saying, your dad passed away from drugs.
Yeah,
like, what a bum, right? What a bum. Imagine that's the legacy you leave after the life you live. For me anyways, like that really was like, man, it's like a whole new chapter of my life and starting over. And some of it's like, doesn't feel good. And some of it wishes on a Saturday night we were playing in, the Bell Center. But that's not my life. My life is, I got a sober wife and I got a new baby, like all these things. I said when I, 5-6 years ago, I was like, I can guarantee you guys a few things. And a couple of those things are, I will never get married again. I will never have a kid again. I'm friggin' 47 years old. And you want to bet $10 million on it? Take my money. And here I am. I'm married to the most beautiful human being I've ever met. We have a 2.5-week-old son. So my life has opened up in other ways. It's not the money. It's not the parties. It's not a nice car, whatever, which used to be important to me, right? Like you go into the Bell Center, I'm not driving a Dodge pickup when Koivu's driving a Bentley Continental. Like it's all, you're just keeping up with the whole
Keeping up
show.
with the Joneses. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, recovery has really, really given me a beautiful life. I get to meet guys like you, and it's not these things aren't corny.
He's talking to me,
anymore.
not you.
Yeah. I
Talking to both of us.
Both of you guys.
I'm kidding.
He meant to do Joe Pesci. He meant to say use.
Use
I get to meet use. I meant to,
but
but it's funny, and I'm grateful. And I've heard it before, and I've said it, but to be I've heard people say I'm a grateful, recovering alcoholic. And I'm like, when I first got sober, I'm like, that's fucking the biggest crock of shit
exactly.
I ever heard,
like,
right?
Shut up.
Pussy.
Shut up.
But I am grateful for that because when I listen, playing a professional sport and doing what we did for a living, it's not a place where you're really allowed to feel your feelings. The only really good feeling that you can expose to those around you is anger.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's fucking anger.
Exactly.
Any of the other feelings, you can't, I'm not saying you're not allowed to, but you're really not allowed to show those other feelings, especially anything on the sensitive side. So how do you process that? And how you process it, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, was by drinking.
Exactly.
And taking drugs, especially when I got addicted to that pain medication. I didn't have to feel those things. I was told I couldn't feel those things. I wasn't told, let me say, it wasn't accepted for me to feel those feelings. So now I'm able to feel those feelings and process them in a total different way than I would before. And that's to me, the beautiful part about it. And I've learned to tone some of those other things down.
You get to be you. Anger. You get to be Sheldon Surrey from Elk Point. You don't have to be Sheldon Surrey, the all-star from, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, you get to just be you. And I think
there's no mask. You know, it's
awesome.
just, it really is. And man, you know, I never, like I said, and I just can't believe sometimes that this is my life, that I get to live my life the way I do. Because when I first came into recovery, I was like, these are old people. They have no life. They've never had money. They don't know what. They've never played in front of 20. These guys are losers.
Yeah. They need a place to go.
You know, I'm looking around like, who's the loser in the room? I can't find them, and ends up being this guy. But yeah, life is just, man. It's, if there's one thing that life has shown me, it's that I know nothing about what's good for me. You know, so.
And it's easy to think you do know. Like, it's easy to be like, I could, you know, just thought process. Like, when something doesn't go my way, it's really easy to start thinking a certain way. But, you know.
Exactly.
It's why you got to.
Well, the way you used to deal with it, to Nux's point.
Exactly.
Well, the way I used to do it is, oh, you're disappointed and mad at me? Watch this. I'm going to show you. You're mad at me? I'm going to show you who's mad. Let's see who can get madder. Yeah. Right? And it's just my ego, you know, when I had just the apologies I've had to make to people in the past for, you know, the ego-driven stuff that I did. I look back on it, and it served me really well in my professional life. Oh, yeah. It really served me really well. It does. And my personal life, it burned it down to the ground, right? Yeah. And so it's certainly been a transition, but man, it's just, you know,
that's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's awesome.
Just taking it like it is, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. And you guys too. I know you guys are, I've seen you guys in the rooms, and, you know, it takes, again, not to be corny, but it takes courage to change. For me, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was to humble myself and go say, even if I don't think I was wrong, to have to go to someone and say, hey, I'm sorry for my behavior. You know, you did, and not go, but you made me, you know. So I don't know. There's been some kind of strength in just being a super simple and humble human being, and grateful. We say it all the time, but it's my life. So
change is an inside job, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's right. The first thing was thinking how much is going to change if I go this way and this direction. And I mean, nothing's changed. I changed, really, right?
Yeah, you changed. Other people aren't.
No, I still.
You're just seeing it different, you know.
Yeah, it's a different lens. And again, those amends. It's nice to make amends to someone and not have to always keep saying sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You make amends, and then from that point on, I know in my own case, I've amended my behavior also. So that doesn't happen again. So I don't have to say I'm sorry again. So recovery, it's a beautiful thing. I know both you guys are in it, and it's awesome. Life is good again. So you have two daughters besides your son now, right?
Yep.
And where are your daughters at?
Is 20. Oh. They're in LA. So my oldest is 20 and my youngest is 16.
Cool.
You know, it's I would say this, that recovery, Nux, I know you know this, it doesn't make everything perfect. As a matter of fact, it makes some things just a little bit harder because I have to deal with them in a different way than I really want to. The way I want to do it is a lot different than the way I got to do it. And so in a lot of ways, it's been a challenge, but my oldest daughter was here this weekend meeting our baby, and just like to see that beauty in being alive to see it. Yeah. You know what I mean? For being alive to make it happen, but also like just to, life is just crazy.
You gotta be honest. Crazy. Were you praying like, please don't be another girl. Please don't be another girl.
Totally.
Yeah, because you know totally. What? if it was, we'd be saying, takes a man to make a man.
Dude, exactly.
The man,
you know who's
came
praying
through.
harder than me? Is my youngest daughter was praying harder than me.
They wanted a little brother.
That's awesome.
They want a little brother, and like I said, man, I never could have imagined this would be my life. You know, I went and got my real estate license a couple months ago, and you know, sitting in school.
You're in Vegas, right,
weeks,
Sheldon?
I'm in Las Vegas, and you know, I'm sitting in this school. It's been 30 years since I've gone to school, and you know, seeing a lot of these people who are really starting out to make something of their life, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, I've had a life, and here I am sitting in this school, listening to the guy talk about, man, if you make $100,000 a year, you got a great life, and I'm like, wow, really? That's what I got to look forward to. That's great, you know. But to be able to do some of these things that are challenging, and again, it's humility, you know. It's doing something I never thought I would do, but knowing that I'm not above doing it. Like, you know, like I said, what are you going to do the rest of your life? Just sit here and, you know, talk about stories? I mean, it's just, you know, that's not in the cards for me. So
you're 47.
Yeah.
You're
What's
47.
your index at? What's your index at? No sandbagging here.
How much we playing for? I'll tell you. I think my index is about a 4.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah. I think my handicap's about a 6, which is, you know, pretty good. When I got my last surgery on my hand, the doctor, I said, hey, dude, I got one thing left going for me. I got to play golf. So when you set my hand, I'm a lefty, make sure I can swing a club. I just swear to God, I said that. He goes, oh, yeah, no, we'll get right on that one. And so it's replaced everything in my life. Golf has become like
it's the best.
It's just friggin'. It's the best and it's the worst. And I feel like because, you know, we played another sport that I should be good at it. Like, whoa, fuck, man.
I'm my own worst enemy. I'm like, fucking, I could have a checklist of swing thoughts by fucking the back nine.
Totally.
You know, but every time I get up to the first tee, it's like, today's the day.
Today's the day. Course record. Blow one left.
I got like 10 lost balls
tee.
later. 10 lost balls later.
You know, all my friends are drinking, and I'm sitting there like, oh, yeah, I'll take a friggin' another sparkling water.
Yeah, give me a
Live
Perrier.
with myself for the next 4 hours. Yeah. What a life.
You said 47, you just had a son, and you said you'd never get married. You said you'd never have a child. I said the same thing. Never get married again. Never have another child. I had 3 children from my previous marriage. And we are going to get married. We're engaged. But I was 60 years old.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
I was 60 years old, and I told Jamie, and she's 21 years younger, but I told her that I would never have children, so I'm not the guy for you if that's what you want. And she said, well, I'll cross that bridge when it comes, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, years later, here we are. And I always thought an older guy, especially a guy that's 60, having a child is selfish for the kid's sake.
Yep.
And then this woman has been so good to me and loves me and cares about me, and we have a awesome thing going. We're a team. Everything is we. And I said, I'm going to try it because I had the spigot shut off, and I did a surgery reversal, 5-hour surgery that didn't work. We found out after a while. And then we did in vitro. We tried that one time and it didn't work. So we had since backed off, but I was ready to do that at the age of 60 out of pure love for somebody else in this world.
That's
and
awesome.
it's unfortunate it didn't work, but we also believe that maybe someone's telling us something too. That
it's not. You know, people say that to me. Well, you're going to be, you know, an older dad. Look, man, my last relapse was about 3.5 years ago, and I met my wife in recovery. I met her in rehab, and
that's where I met my Jamie.
They said when two people can authentically be there to change your life, something beautiful can happen. And it did. And we were, when I went to my second rehab in September of 17, when I got out, she was there and she's like, are you ready to get sober? Because she stayed sober. Right. And so she's like, are you ready to get sober? Or are you ready to do this? And I said, yeah. And we started hitting meetings and we started going to church and started doing all these things that like, I just never,
you would have never done.
And then I just never would have done that. And then, my last relapse, like I said, about right at the beginning of COVID, I remember looking at my wife and the disappointment she had in her face, but she's like, hey, I love you. We'll get you through this. But I didn't sign up for this, she said. And I remember looking at her face and going, that I care more about her feelings than mine now. Right. And I just had that moment. It's like, I know I'm done because without my sobriety, I don't have her. I don't have a new baby. I'm probably not alive the way things are going on the outside right now. I'm just probably not alive. Yeah. And so thank God, like I have someone who's in recovery. As you guys know, it's just, it's not easy, it's just not easy.
Nothing is. Nothing's easy in life.
Nothing worth it.
We could get done with this and I'm just motherfucking like the mailman. Like 30
exactly.
Seconds from now. You're like,
I feel really good right
just
now.
be like, what am I doing?
That's so funny.
I'm going to take my dog outside after this,
Hey, listen, this has been awesome, Sheldon. I mean, we could go all afternoon, but I certainly have I had a ton of respect for you as a player. I love the way you played the game. You're a true pro. You eventually became one. And then your life after hockey and what you've done here in recovery and turned your life around. So God bless. And I just think it's awesome. You're a good man, and we'll have to play one day, the three of us. Get out there.
We got to get out somewhere. I'm getting like 10 strokes on them.
We will. Come on. I got you.
I'm getting 10 too.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys want. It's home course, so but I feel the same way. Thank you guys for having me on. Sometimes it's not, this isn't, you don't just go around talking about some things that are, for recovery, you don't just go around, advertising to everybody and being able to take a trip down memory lane with people that you trust and respect. So thank you guys for having me on. Nux, I love seeing you on the meetings. You're a huge inspiration for a guy I didn't like at all when he was playing.
That's good. I was doing my job.
For you, and Stapes doing
Thank
it.
You.
Yeah, I know. You're doing it too good.
Did you guys play against each other or no?
No.
Holy fuck, Stapes.
No.
How old do you think I am?
Oh, you're 47. You're 47.
Jeez,
I'm fucking 66.
Sorry, I thought he said 57.
I can go dye my beard after this black.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.